Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about another news story about compensation at the Big Four. Specifically, we're going to talk about PwC UK and news about their partner pay raises. News has come out that their partner are going to receive a record increase in pay up to 20%, and average pay is going to be $868,000 per partner in the UK with around 900 partners. And this is on a past year, COVID-19, where they only received like a 7% raise. And now this year, the economy is bouncing back and it wasn't as bad as everybody thought. And they're ready to pay each other 20%. And this comes after we've been covering a lot of news stories about investment banks where they've been increasing their pay like well over 20%. And we talked about news stories about PwC staff getting very high raises. And I know there's some people that were saying that's not what they heard, but now you have another news story that confirms that. So if you're in PwC or one of these Big Four accounting firms and you didn't get a good raise, then, I'm sorry to tell you, but your performance might not be the best, or you might not be in a raise year. But also it's just a reminder that in some years you need to really kick it into gear, because this year is a year where there's a huge pay increase, and then right after all these pay increases are happening in the Big Four accounting firms, now the markets in the US are tanking, or have been. It went up a little bit today, but the other day it went down because of the Delta variant of COVID-19 and inflation fears, and government spending is theoretically will go down a little bit, but if government spending goes up, then it'll only make inflation worse, especially if energy costs go up. And there's also news about shortages in the US because of lack of transportation and other things like that. So in one year, we have one extreme in the Big Four accounting firms where they reduce pay, cut bonuses, laid people off. And the very next year, they have insane bonuses. And I think both years are reactionary, like hyper reactionary, because what happens if this Delta variant, or we just have every year where we're going to have some craziness with COVID-19, and then in European countries, European and Australia, there's lockdowns that are going to be happening again, which will threaten the economy. And so, the Big Four just bounce right back and start laying people off and cutting their pay. I think the extremes are bad in both cases, and I've spoken about that in the past, but it's just part of the way the Big Four accounting firms run their business. But it also shows the partner's mindset that they're willing to use any scenario to increase their pay and to pay out significant bonuses to themselves. And so you need to fight for that for yourself, especially now where the Big Four accounting firms are pretending that they're social activists. And if they're pretending to be social activists, that means they're champions of the small people and the disadvantaged. Well, you need to use that to your advantage. You need to use these news stories to your advantage, and make sure you get paid well. If you have to get other people together, I think you can use this time period against them. The good economy and activism in general, you can use that against them. But just like the COVID-19 year, I don't think this year is the normal. I think it all depends on how the economy is going to work, what's going to happen with COVID-19, what's going to happen with government spending and inflation around the world, because it's not just the US where the government spent like crazy. And now we have more coordination globally we see the global taxation, and the countries are working out how that's going to happen. And I won't doubt if there's more global things that are going to happen. But on another note, there was some articles that said that they're giving themselves record pay in the face of increased regulation in the UK. And I agree that there's going to be increased regulation in the UK. There always is on the Big Four accounting firms, but also the UK and other countries need the big four accounting firms to push various global initiatives down into large companies, because the big four accounting firms are embedded in all the large companies. So although it may seem like there's tons of regulation and things going on in the big four accounting firms, I think the big four accounting firms know that they have a lot of leverage with governments and they know what's going on. But also, a lot of these partners don't think super long term, and they're just trying to capture profits for themselves, use any reason to do so. So that's what they're going to do. And also, supposedly, they cut their pay in past years, so they're using this to catch up. But just another news story of increased compensation at the big four accounting firms. I'm sure this will continue for a few more months, and it depends on how the economy goes. I know KPMG is on a different timeline than the other big four accounting firms, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. That's a podcast for today. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date. Also, make sure to check out the description for ways that you can help us out. Thanks for listening.